As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, everyone, and welcome to another spooky episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at obscure pieces of media and decide if they should be tossed into the black hole of obscurity or remembered for all of humankind. My name is Steve, and with me is the greatest co-host, who's also a writer, actor, and dreamweaver.
Yes, Yahel, how are you doing, sir? As I hold your gaze, Steve, I've never been afraid of holding a man's gaze. It's perfectly natural.
You and he were buddies, weren't you? Well, if you want a new podcasting co-host, I won't get in the way. Wow, no, hardly anyone knows what we're talking about.
No one understands what we're talking
but
about.
But by the end of this episode, they will, because it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, by the way.
Yep, happy Halloween to you, sir. I love that we both dressed as each other wearing matching shirts.
The weapons of mass satisfaction finally got it together.
Finally got matching gear.
Yes, very professional. I mean, you're supposed to dress like each other, not only in the ring, but outside as well. But yes, so we've had a whole month of Halloween-themed episodes, and we thought we would close out October with quite possibly the greatest show. I don't care if we're spoiling the ending of the episode. Like probably the best, most hilarious show that has ever been made, and that is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Is that hyperbole I'm spouting here, Yahel?
That's okay. No, it's it's a really good show. I've tried to introduce people to it before, but I don't know, man. Like, it's definitely like seems to be a love it or hate it kind of a show.
Right.
Basically, the people that don't like it just don't have a great sense of humor.
Well, I would say, I mean, in their defense, that
no, there is no defense.
That British comedy is an acquired taste, and let's just start out with that question right there. Like, prior to Dark Place, what is your experience with British comedy, or Britcoms, as they are sometimes known?
Oh, I mean, I've always watched bits from sketch comedy shows, like British sketch comedy shows, but I've never watched a British comedy show, like a series as a whole. So I don't have a lot of experience.
Oh, right. Well, I mean,
Red Dwarf.
Oh, okay. I'm right there with you with the Red Dwarf. I'd say probably the first one that I ever saw before I even knew what British comedy was probably Monty Python. Were you a Python guy?
Oh, yeah. Duh. Yeah, no, I like Monty Python.
Yeah.
Steve, as you and I were discussing before we started this call, I am hungover, and I did just wake up from a nap. So I think once we're about 40 minutes in, I should be awake and be catching my second wind 40 minutes into our podcast.
That's all right.
So come back if you're listening, or fast forward to 40 minutes for the good stuff.
That's all right, buddy. I'm just glad that you're here by my side. I don't know. All right. So yeah, it started with Monty Python. And then, I remember when we finally moved to Florida, for some reason, I guess we got regular cable, and with it was Comedy Central. And it was in the early days, and all they had was, reruns of stuff for the most part. And one of the other shows on there was The Young Ones. Did you ever watch that one?
I've never even heard of The Young Ones.
Yeah. I mean, it was just basic. I guess it came out in the 80s, and it's basically just about these, sort of 80s punk rocky youths that all live in this. I would almost say it's like the 80s version of Always Sunny in Philadelphia with British people and over the top British humor. I think you'd probably dig it. But yeah. So fast forward, I don't know, 20 years, and then I think the first time I saw Dark Place, or at least it was around the time when you and I lived together in Orlando.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. So I remember that you are the one that like introduced it to me, and the series is only like 6 episodes long, so
Right, which is
I think you had already
that's
watched all
yeah,
of
yeah.
them.
I mean, and that's very indicative of British comedy. For some reason, they just sort of like they're just like, hey, we're gonna make a really short, like awesome show, and then that's it. That's all you're getting. The same thing happened with
Yeah.
the original British Office compared to the American one. But Red Dwarf
Right.
is still going though. I guess that's the exception to the
Yeah.
rule though.
Yeah, yeah. They're like British comedy shows or British TV shows are like me in bed, Steve. I just go short and leave them wanting for more. You want to just be quick and done. So that way you leave them wanting more, right? That's what women
That
want.
reminds me on like the the last. I started watching the last episode of Dark Place, and Dean Lerner, aka Reed, he goes, "I got into medicine for the laughs. Well, that and the pussy, and that dried up 10 years ago, if you'll pardon the expression." And basically, that is what this episode is going to be as we talk through the pilot episode of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. I mean, I don't know about you, but all I did was, first off, there's a ton of notes because this show is so subtle in its approach of,
Right.
and for anyone who hasn't seen it, can you describe Dark Place to them, like before we get into the actual synopsis?
So you don't want me to describe the
No.
synopsis?
I'll read that word for word
I just-
in a minute.
The show, I mean, I was actually thinking of this earlier. Like, how would you, if I was going to compare it to something, and this isn't a great comparison, but like, those Naked Gun movies, how they're very like ridiculous
on.
and over the top, real silly, and there's always like stuff going on too in the background, and just like in Dark Place, there's lots of things where like if you watch in the background, there'll be like a doctor walking somewhere, but they're really just like walking like straight to a wall. Like they're not really walking anywhere.
Right.
Or like in this episode, there's a guy that's like walking past one of the main characters, and first you see a shot of their feet, and the feet is like women's
high heels.
feet like in high heels, and then when the camera cuts to the same shot of like like looking
wide
up higher,
shot, yeah.
it's a man walking. Like there's lots of like on purpose mistakes like that.
And I tried to write like all of them down in my notes, or as many as I could.
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
I mean, this was. There's just so much subtlety, and yeah, you nailed it. It's definitely like the Naked Gun or Airplane, but they did one better. I mean, number one, I guess the Naked Gun was like, I guess, kind of satirizing, cop shows and action movies and stuff like that. This one is a throwback to, Dark Place is a throwback to the 80s. And on top of it, they have interviews with the current day Garth Marenghi and the director, Dean Lerner, and then one of the other actors. And that just adds like a whole extra layer of comedy to this
Right.
brilliant show. And
By the way, I do wanted to say sorry. We did have a few people in the chat here. Luna, Smoke Monster, and Stadium Arts, aka Stride. Thanks so much for joining, guys. Smoke says that your VCR needs calibration, and I'm so stupid, Steve, that I thought something was wrong with the stream. But he's referring to the CRT
the logo,
TV,
our beautiful
thing.
logo. It's
overlay.
It's retro, dude.
Yes.
It's throwback, just like Dark Place is. Yeah, so yeah, they added in the interviews, and like it's so good, and it's weird because like I think of Dark Place as like the show that kind of was the first to start doing throwback before it became like really popular. Because like this came out, and then I should have looked at the year it came out, but then Tarantino's and Rodriguez's Grindhouse movie came out. And then after that, Kung Fury and Turbo Kid, all that other stuff. And you and I are both fans of the movie Pool Boy, right?
Yes.
Kevin
yes.
Sorbo's Citizen
Kevin
Kane.
Sorbo's last great work.
Would you?
It's crazy that Kevin Sorbo, the guy that made Pool Boy, which is like, really raunchy, really edgy, like real ridiculous, is now like some crazy, extreme, radicalized, God movie
do you
maker.
think he's just doing that so we can keep working in like the Christian film industry?
You know, maybe it started that way, but man, if you look at his Twitter account, I haven't looked at it in a few months, but I think he's bought in.
I bet. Well, would you say that Pool Boy sort of borrowed / ripped off the like the sort of Dark Place shtick? Because number one, it's a throwback movie, and number two, they also have like the interviews spliced in as well. I mean, it's almost like the exact same thing if you think about it.
Maybe like with the interviews being spliced in. So basically, like we should probably explain a little bit about Garth Marenghi's. Like I know you kind of touched on the setup, but basically you watch an episode of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and they intercut with it interviews with the actors and
Right,
the
the
director
current day actors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's supposed to be them reflecting back on the show that they made. And the show was like not picked up by the in story, in universe, not picked up by the BBC because according to Garth Marenghi, it was too damn crazy. Too unconventional, or he tells you to throw away conventional
Right.
I think I'm mixing it up, but
absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know if Pool Boy stole that from it because I don't think Garth Marenghi's Place is the first to do it either. Pool Boy definitely feels like its own kind of thing because Pool Boy's like very violent.
Sure. Well, hey, so is Dark Place in its own way, but
in its own way. A man does explode in the first episode.
Right.
Dude, let's just get into it because I just want to like talk about.
Let's run the bumper. Here we go.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, here we are in the Obscuritron, where we have a beautiful photo slideshow of various Dark Place clips playing. And basically, let me get my notes here. Here we go. All right, so this is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, episode 1. Here's the synopsis basically of the whole show. I'll try to do it as Garth Marenghi would himself. In the 1980s, horror writer Garth Marenghi wrote, produced, directed, and starred in Dark Place, a groundbreaking series set in a hospital exploring the depths of the author's imagination. At least, that's what Marenghi and his publicist co-star Dean Lerner claim in modern-day interviews, which both bookend and interrupt the episodes. In fact, the show is cheap, cliched, full of gaping plot holes, and startlingly misogynistic. It's directed by Richard Ayoade. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name, but
I don't know how to pronounce that.
Dean Lerner / Reed himself. I just wanted to throw in there that Dark Place premiered, at least in the UK, on January 29th, 2004. And the premiere date on Adult Swim it's weird. In Wikipedia, it said that it premiered on Sci-Fi Channel. I'm like, that's not right. But somewhere else I saw that it premiered 2006 on Adult Swim. But whatever. It's not that important.
Whatever. Doesn't
anyway, so Dean Lerner, he directed Man to Man with Dean Lerner, which is basically the follow-up show to Dark Place. Aside from that, he's directed quite a few music video shorts for like the Arctic Monkeys, and as well as one episode of Community. I think now he's known much more for his acting, which Yahel will get into in a bit. And as far as who this genius thing is written by, it is also written by Richard Ayoade and Matthew Holness, who is Garth Marenghi himself. And he has written and directed a movie called Possum, which looks really dark and sad. I haven't actually watched it. Have you seen a poster for it or anything? Possum?
No. But I did see that the lady that plays Madeline also wrote and starred. She directed, wrote, and starred in, much like Garth Marenghi, in some movie that she's like pregnant but holding a knife, and it looks like it's supposed to be pretty dark too. I forgot the name of it.
Oh, you Brits! You're so.
Prevenge, not revenge.
That is
Prevenge.
A funny title. But he also helped write Man to Man with Dean Lerner, as well as Playhouse Presents, which I believe is that sketch show that we watched him on, where he's always like, "It's like pussy on a stick." Do you remember those? You sent me the clip.
Oh man,
yeah, well, I watched like the whole series.
Sorry, don't get hot, brother. I don't remember.
How dare you? Garth Marenghi's a genius. Well, as well as some other stuff I've never heard of called a Bruiser, and a short film called A Gun for George that he also directed. I don't know if like short films are like big business in the UK or something, but I guess this is what they cut their teeth on before they got to Dark Place. Production companies include Avalon Television as well as Channel 4 Television Corporation. And I just wanted to mention the music, which is awesome, by a guy named Andrew Hewitt, but is billed as being, even he has a fake name, Stig Basavic. And I don't know, it's one of the many jokes that are never really explained, but it's still funny that they bothered to do it.
Like in the opening theme where it says that the music is by Stig Basavic, but then it says like based on melodies originally whistled by Garth Marenghi. And which is just hilarious because Garth Marenghi's ego is out of control. And it permeates in every little scene, whether he's in the scene or not. Like, it's truly amazing.
If he's not on frame, all of the characters have to be talking about Dag. But anyway, take it away on the cast there, brother.
Okay, so pretty short cast. So as you mentioned, Richard Ayoade, which I guess is what we've fallen on for the pronunciation of his name. He stars as Dean Lerner / Thornton Reed. He is terrible in terms of his acting is very bad, but it's bad on purpose as Thornton Reed. He was just Garth Marenghi's publisher, and Garth Marenghi is originally a horror writer, like a Stephen King type of character. But he even says before they play Thornton Reed's first scene, they do a little interview with the quote unquote actor that played Thornton Reed. He says, I told Garth I don't know how to act. And he's like, and I won't keep doing the voice, but basically he says, and I'll never forget what Garth said to me. He said, "I'm not looking for someone to put on an act. I'm looking to put on the truth," or something. So he's like, so here's Dean Lerner as Thornton Reed putting on the truth. And then they cut to him just yelling at the camera.
Right. I mean, it's
like reading his lines a mile a minute. It's
reading.
It's
the script is obviously being held off camera. It's a close up on him. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Right. Yeah. Next we have Matthew Holmes, who plays Dr. Rick Douglas, the titular character. He's also Garth Marenghi. So just to keep things straight, Garth Marenghi is the character that plays in the TV is the horror writer that plays Rick Douglas in the TV show of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. And it can get a little confusing since everybody plays two parts. But anyways, he's really funny and just really commits, really dry. Richard Ayoade, I think, I should have mentioned, is probably mostly known for the It crowd these days. Have you ever seen that show?
I tried watching it. It just wasn't for me.
It's shit.
Thank you for saying so. Like, it's basically, I looked at it as the British version of The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Like, I don't get what people see in it.
Me either.
Oh man, Big Bang Theory. I could go on for an hour. About
we'll have a special rant episode about that someday.
Yeah. We should pretend like it's an obscure show and just cover the first episode of Big Bang Theory. Then we have Matt Berry, who on IMDb he's referred to as Matt Berry, but I've seen him billed as Matthew Berry quite a bit too. But anyways, he's the other great show that I saw him in is Toast of London.
So good.
Yeah, that's another really funny show. It was on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it is or it isn't. He was also in Snuffbox.
So funny.
Which is a great sketch show. A bunch of clips of it on YouTube. He was also in the It crowd. I don't know. I guess they just wanted some money, so they did the It crowd because that was on for like 7 years. So
why? What's wrong with people?
Matthew Holmes, the guy that plays, Garth Marenghi, the main character, he had like the least acting credits from what I saw.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I was going to save it to the end, but yeah, like I would say that Matt Berry and Richard Ayoade, like they've really blown up. But Garth does show up like when you least suspect him. I don't know if you watched The Haunting of Bly Manor, which was another like just piece of trash show on Netflix, but he was in that. Just sort of in a side role. It was the only good thing about it.
I'm sure. Next, we have Alice Lowe, who plays the sole female in the main cast, at least. She was in Hot Fuzz. Like I mentioned, she was in that. She's got that movie Prevenge. She's been in. She was in Bandersnatch, the Black Mirror special. And she's completely unrecognizable now. Well, compared to her character in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, because she's like naturally a brunette, and Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, because it's about a show that they supposedly made in the 80s. Her makeup is very 80s style,
and the hair,
and she's got a giant blonde wig, so she really doesn't look anything like her in real life. Besides that, there's some like reoccurring characters here and there. I don't really want to go over all of them, but I guess we should.
I just want to point out the last guy, Julian Barrett, as the priest or the padre. He is one half of the Mighty Boosh, which the other guys, Matt and Richard, I think are also on episodes of that occasionally, and he's pretty hilarious, I think.
Yeah, no, he is. He's not in this episode, unfortunately.
No,
he's only in. Oh, I say he's on the Padre. Oh, wait, yeah. You're right. You're right. He is in it. He's only in like half the episodes of the series, but he's always great. And Larry Renwick, the guy that explodes, he was only in a few things, but I figured I should mention him since he is important to the plot of this episode. But should we get into the episode?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say like the side characters are performed so hilariously, as if they were just like, I don't know, grips or something that were forced to act. Like just they walk out and onto camera and they just look so lost and scared. It's hilarious. But anyway, all right. So we open with current day Garth Marenghi, horror novelist, addressing us, the viewer. He's reading one of his books to us. And it's hilarious because he's just, if I could just, let's see, he's like, blood. Like he has to like look down to see that there's like 5 more bloods to say over and over again. And he finishes and he tells us that he's a horror visionary, Dark Place, and that he filmed Dark Place in the 1980s only to be shelved by the network, as Yahel said earlier, because it was just too damn dangerous. Well, now the network is so desperate, which is funny because I think it mirrors the present, that they want Dark Place back on the air. And there's also going to be interviews by the people involved. So basically, he sets everything up for us in this sort of opening monologue kind of thing.
I love that he says that he spent 3 hours of his life putting together interviews. Like it was, and everything was like such a pain for him to do. He's like, it's just. I
had to go down to my spacious basement to like fish it out. Like he wanted us to know he had a spacious. Well, the one line I have written down here is he refers to himself as a humble fabulist. Like. What? You should start calling yourself that.
I should.
Okay. And another note I have written here. Okay, so basically he finishes, and then we see a very loud logo for Channel 4, and it was confirmed to me by an actual British guy that is the legit like retro Channel 4 logo from back in the day. And then the opening theme begins. How would you describe how the theme sounds to you? What's it a mix of?
Oh man, it's like a mix of like a classic horror organ song with like almost like an 80s dance song.
You're almost there. You're halfway there. I would say horror mixed with MacGyver meets Murder, She Wrote.
Perfect. Yes, that is accurate.
Okay. So that I remember when I first heard that theme and saw this opening, I was like, "Oh man, I am all in." And the opening is so hilariously bad because it's bad green screen done on purpose. It's like it shows Garth Marenghi typing, like floating in space, like you can even see the outline of the green screen, and then just random weird stuff floating towards him, and he reacts to it like afterward. Like it's just it's hilarious.
Isn't he like typing with like two fingers too, like very fierce? And he's like an author or a writer. In fact, he claims at the beginning that he is one of the few people you'll meet that's written more books than they've read. So you think he'd be a more proficient typist.
I have that written down. Yeah, I have for sure. And so now we're immediately in Dark Place Hospital. Enter Liz, who walks by, and then a stagehand places a cat like by her. And then she is told telepathically by the cat, who's obviously voiced by Matt Berry, I would say, to leave.
Yeah. And the funny thing about the cat, Steve, is like, just so people know, so like the cat is supposed to appear, like had this been done properly, like the cat is just walking from a doorway from another room towards her, but instead you clearly see like the stagehand's hands like sticking out past the doorway and just dropping the cat like in front of her. Just great.
It's so classic. And so she very model-esque sort of saunters to the information desk at Dark Place, where one of those like stagehand / actors is hanging out. And she then says that I'm here to apply to be the new doctor. You'll see my credentials are in order. I just graduated from Harvard College, Yale. Which, I don't know, that line always cracks me up because it's so ridiculous. Like, it just doesn't even make any sense.
And then she says something like, I got an A+ and I aced my something. I can't remember.
It's just, the bad writing is so good. So good. Enter Dr. Sanchez, who says, you're a woman.
Immediately.
And she apologizes.
Oh, Steve, but we should point out.
Go ahead.
We should point out that, like, when she's talking to the receptionist guy, you know, he says, "Oh, that's great. We have the opening, whatever, you know." And then she's like, "Well, you can start right away." And she's like, "Do I have time
to the toilet?" No, she says, "Do I have time to go to the toilet?"
To go to the toilet. And he's like, "No, I've already paged Dr. Sanchez." And this all happens in the span. He should be here any minute. And then Dr. Sanchez immediately jumps on the scene. This all happens in like less than a minute.
He never paged him.
So badly done. It's amazing. Like when I say it's badly done, I mean that for our listeners in a good way.
And this is like what separates Dark Place from other people who try on purpose to be so bad that it's good. And I think usually, I don't know, people lean on it as a crutch for like, I guess, bad writing and maybe like a lack of budget or something, but there's just so much talent going on here and so much subtlety and attention to detail that it's just brilliant. But anyway, so she apologizes for being a woman, and they shake hands, and then Dr. Sanchez, who is Matt Berry.
Wait, Steve, I'm sorry I keep cutting you off, but I got to point out that, after he says, "Oh, you're a woman," that's how he greets her, which is ridiculous. And she says, "I hope that won't be a problem." And he's like, "Oh, we've got art on the wall here. It's the 21st century." He says something about art on the wall. It's fine. And that somehow makes it fine. Like, and this is how you because I think another thing shows or movies that try to do like so bad it's good on purpose that they fail at is they'll try to do like what I guess is like kind of like a misogynist joke or whatever, but they don't get it because like in Dark Place, whenever they make fun of like women or whatever, the joke is on the person like making the horrible comment. Like you're laughing at that person, not at not with them. So, and I think that's like something that's missed.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's hilarious because it's so ridiculous. Like, how dumb is this doctor? He just approaches somebody, just goes, "You're a woman,"
and please chime in. I mean, there's so many jokes, so many subtle jokes that it was impossible to write them all down. So jump in anytime. They shake hands. Dr. Sanchez starts screaming uncontrollably. They cut to how would you just again more bad green screen of like a montage of like dark
violent
images,
body parts,
and And it's funny that the screaming goes on for so long that there's even like a bit where Dr. Sanchez looks around because he's waiting for the director to say cut.
And he's still screaming, like his mouth is open, still screaming. He's like, oh, looking around.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then I guess they finally break their embrace, and Liz falls on the ground, and Dr. Sanchez goes, "Are you okay?" And she's just there going, "Not really." Which, I mean, like the thing with this is, and when I was typing this all up, is that really just talking about it doesn't do it justice. Like, you just have to go and watch it.
Yeah.
So now,
and we should point out, this is just in case somebody doesn't stick around for the whole podcast. How dare you? But it's going to sound like this is a really long episode or something. They're only like 22 minutes each. Yeah. They're just like very densely packed with comedy, so it'll take us a long time to talk about it, but it's only 20 minutes. Give it a shot. It's on Amazon Prime.
There's no reason not to watch it. You're welcome. But okay, so now there's an exterior shot of Dark Place Hospital, which is obviously an awesome model. And then...
By awesome, you mean like a not so
Oh,
great
yeah.
model?
It's awesome because it's so bad, for sure.
Yeah.
And now we're in the interview segment with current-day Garth Marenghi, who tells us, as Yahel said, that he's one of the few people you meet who's written more books than they've actually read. And then Dean Lerner, he pretty much ends the segment with him saying, "This is going to be the most significant television event since Quantum Leap." And I don't say that like very much, like, which I mean,
yeah, he's like, I don't see that lightly. Yeah, it's great.
I love Quantum Leap, so I agree with him.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, when he says it, like, he's so sincere about it. He's like looking at the camera. He's like, "I read the script. It scared me to death. Got myself together. I told Garth," and that's what he says. "I looked Garth in the eyes. I've never been afraid to hold a man's gaze. It's perfectly natural." Like, what are you talking about, man? It just goes on this like side
right,
rant.
and that's another thing that I think elevates Dark Place over other like so purposely so bad it's good stuff, is that they're just so quick and sincere in their delivery, and they never wink at you from like behind the camera ever. They never break. They never break the gaze, if you will.
Yeah.
So let's see. All right, so now we're back into Dark Place Hospital, and Dr. Rick Douglas, played by Garth Marenghi, walks in using a fake slow motion because I guess they didn't have money for real slow motion back then. And he walks through Dark Place Hospital, basically monologuing to himself. Yeah, Yahel already mentioned this is when they do they cut to Rick's feet, and there's high heels behind it, and then they cut back to the wide shot, and there's a male doctor walking. I mean, which, man, who thinks of that? Yeah. It's just so brilliant. Then he goes and visits a sick kid. He tells the kid that he's not Jesus Christ. He's come to accept that now.
Well, the kid's like, "Is my daddy gonna be okay?" And this was always weird because like the kid, you walk in, you think the kid's the patient because he's like in some like hospital room, and he's like, "Is my daddy gonna be okay?" And that's what he's like, "Your daddy's very sick, Timmy. I'm not Jesus Christ. I've come to accept that now." So there was a time in Rick's life that he
had a God complex.
Maybe legitimately thought that he was Jesus Christ.
I'm sure Garth Marenghi thinks that he is. But yeah, like there's anytime he has one of these little visits with the kids, it's always hilarious. And so now we are back in the interview segment.
And the kid like tells him like, sorry, Steve. Okay. Like while he's talking to the kid, he gets like a page. And it's like from Thornton Reed, and he says something like "God damn it" or something like that.
There's always swearing in front of the kid. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then he goes, "It's my boss. I gotta go." And he goes, "They work you too hard. They should pay you a hero's wage."
He goes, "You're a good kid." And then the little kid is like, "And you're a great doctor." Like, it's all
yeah. A lot of the scenes revolve around somebody giving Garth Marenghi a compliment.
But it's all about massaging Garth or Dag, therefore Garth Marenghi's ego. So So yeah, then we're back in the an interview segment with Dean Lerner, who, just as Yahel said before, he's not an actor and he's just giving the truth. And then we have like an extreme close-up of him. I guess you could say he's chewing out Garth. Most of his lines are done in close-up. It's obvious he's reading off the script. Reed tells Dag to deal with Liz in an orthodox manner. Like they keep using that word orthodox. It's like they were thinking, oh, we'll make it out to where Garth Marenghi has like a word a day calendar or something. It just tried to put it in everything.
I think it's supposed to be like, the way I always took it is like Garth Marenghi doesn't know what orthodox means. Right. And just uses it like randomly, because he thinks it sounds good or something.
Right. And
Steve, when he's reading from his book in the very beginning, sorry to go back, and he's saying blood, blood, and then he says, and bits of sick. Isn't that like sick used when there's like a word missing?
No, I think they mean vomit. That's like a British slang for vomit, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And another thing, sorry, that I wanted to touch on when you talked about the slow motion. I don't think it's this episode, but later on in one of the other episodes, because there's a lot of slow motion used throughout the series, and they talk about how they would use slow motion because some of the episodes were a little short. So like, there'll just be like random slow motion.
For no
sometimes
reason.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, basically they have Rick says he's gonna deal with Liz. He walks basically off stage, not through the door that he walked in.
Right, there's a door behind him, and instead to the office. And the only door into the office, and when Rick leaves, quote unquote, leaves the office, he leaves towards the camera. What would essentially be a wall is what he's walking towards.
It's so awesome. And then Sanchez and Reed sit on the desk, and they basically talk in like poker analogies about. He's like, there's he's missing a few cards in his deck, like something like that.
Yeah, they're like, there's a wild card if I've ever seen one. Yeah, but I'm glad he's in our deck of cards or something like that. And he's like, but
sometimes there's a joker in the deck or something along those lines. And then,
go ahead. He says, it's a great deck of cards unless there's a joker. That he pauses, and sometimes there is.
Right. And then they actually cut. Cut to a deck of cards in the transition, which. I don't know. I kind of thought that was a little cheesy, but I don't know. Maybe the first time I saw it, I laughed. But anyway.
But again, I think it's supposed to be like, this is because Garth, you got to remember, Garth Marenghi directed it also. So, and produced it. So I think it's just like Garth is Garth thinks he's like this amazing creative genius, but he's not. Like he is literally a guy pandering to the lowest common denominator all the time. So I think in Garth Marenghi's mind, because that's where we're at, in Garth Marenghi's mind, he thinks like this is like artsy or something to show the cards.
It does seem like someone who had no idea what they were doing would do. Absolutely.
Right.
So now we are in Liz's hospital room. Dag comes in and meets Liz. She says she's psychic. Dag makes sarcastic remarks because he doesn't believe her. Liz tells him to stop being sarcastic, and Rick dramatically looks at the camera and says, well, maybe if everyone you loved had died, you'd be sarcastic too. And Liz goes, yes, that makes sense, which is like one of her, like, sort of, it's a line she uses a lot, I would say. And I think and then they end up in the break room.
But before they go there, like Rick tells her, I'll lend you some money for coffee. Let's go. So like a coffee is like in the 80s, like what, like not even $1, like 80 cents or something.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, and like Rick, aka Garth Marenghi, aka Dr. Douglas, he's like, I'll lend you money for coffee. Like he's not even gonna buy her a coffee.
And again, in the last episode. They're in Reed's office, and Reed says he's gonna go buy Liz some coffee, and I can't remember if it's Sanchez or Dag is like, but Reed, the coffee here is free, and he goes, yeah, but she don't know that. Like, so stupid.
Right, and they end up going to a break room for the coffee, and in a voiceover, Dr. Douglas, aka Garth Marenghi, says that they went to that break room because the coffee's
Right.
free there. So it's like, okay, so I guess he's not gonna lend her money. It's just another mistake,
Right.
in the continuity, which is like an ongoing thing throughout the whole
Absolutely.
series.
So yeah, now we are in said break room. It's Liz, Dag, and Sanchez are chatting. Liz says she has a vision involving room 213. Dag accidentally thinks, or we hear him think out loud. He says, "That's where Renwick is." And Liz goes, basically the question is who is Renwick? Dag doesn't want to tell him, and Liz delivers a pretty hilarious line. She goes, "I can handle it. I'm a big girl now, and in a year's time, I'll be a woman." And then Sanchez follows that up with, and this basically closes out the scene. He goes, "So what happened with you and this Renwick customer?" Like,
by the way, did you notice? And guys, again, we're not doing this any justice. Like, you really have to watch
Absolutely.
it. Like, the delivery is hilarious with all these characters. But did you notice that Rick Sanchez's lines, and I never really noticed it before, but I think a lot of his lines, when it's a close up, they ADR'd his audio, which means that they dubbed it
Right.
over after the fact. And I think they did that just to make it more, because it even sounds like he's using a different microphone
Right.
than everybody else.
Right. I think
so they really kind of
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean,
go
well, now that you mention it, okay. I mean, I think they did a lot of ADR on purpose overall, but I think the idea is that, well, I guess only Garth and Dean know, is he a actual, quote unquote Hispanic person that they then dubbed over with an because his
because his name is Dr. Lucien
yeah,
Sanchez.
yeah. But wait, what's his the actor's name is though I forget. I mean, well, we know the real actor, but who's the actor who is Matt Berry playing? I can't remember his name.
Todd
okay,
Rivers.
so that's obviously not a Hispanic name in the slightest. So yeah. They did bad ADR on purpose then. So now we're
but it's glorious. I mean, it's
absolutely.
amazing.
So now we're in the cafeteria. Dag says that he and Renwick saved each other's life and made a pact to push each other's minds to the limit. And then they decided to, which eventually pushed them into the arcane arts. They performed some sort of ritual at Dark Place, which opened the gates of hell in Dark Place. And then out of nowhere, Rick says he needs to go have a shower. And now they're in the hallway. Rick exits the bathroom having just showered. Rick says he closed the gates of hell, but since Renwick is back, they might open again, but he doesn't have time to deal with it. And
we should point out that Dr. Rick Douglas comes out of the showers wearing a very short
a robe,
bathrobe. It maybe comes down maybe halfway down his thighs, so it's pretty short. And he's not wearing a shirt or anything else under it. And for his shoes, he is wearing his dress shoes.
Whoa! I've never noticed that.
earlier.
Oh my goodness!
I didn't notice it till today. That he's wearing the dress shoes. So just wanted to set the scene.
Oh,
Sorry,
no,
go ahead.
brilliant. Liz offers to help. She says she's not an official doctor yet. Rick offers to pay her and then says she can use the extra money for clothes and makeup.
Makeup, yeah. He says okay, but you can help, but I won't let you do it for free. I'll pay you.
It'll make you legit.
Yeah. It'll make you legit here. How? Why? How does that?
Because
make
he's
her
in the
legit?
pocket. She's in the pocket of the great Rick Douglas. That's why.
Oh no! Listen, I get the characters thinking behind it, but it's just so ridiculous. And he says that you could probably use the money to buy some makeup and clothes, and she's like, thanks.
Oh man.
But before she offers to help, remember the weird shot that they do where it's the camera cuts from Rick's face to like a shot of a wall, and then she comes in. In fact, I'll do it now for those watching.
Yeah.
Like basically just like comes in like this and says like thanks.
Oh man, I'm so glad you did that. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, just real weird, real awkward. And one thing I do want to mention, not related to the scene we just watched, but I just don't want to forget about this. When we see the interviews with the actors talking about their characters on Dark Place, they all act differently. So like Todd Rivers acts differently than Dr. Lucien Sanchez did on Dark Place. Same with Dean Lerner. He acts differently than Thornton Reed, but Garth Marenghi acts just like Dr. Douglas.
Right.
Like he is the same person basically. Like that's him that he's written into it, which is something that like I guess subconsciously I always knew, but I never really noticed it till today, and it's hilarious.
Right. I thought you were going to touch on the fact that, and I guess we could just talk about it now. Like, all right, if you watch the entire series, which is only 6 episodes, there's never any interviews with Liz. I think they say that she like mysteriously disappeared or something, but I almost think like it's even darker than that. Like I thought maybe that they sexually harassed her into just not wanting anything to do with her by the time they were done.
I see. I always thought, and I haven't watched the whole series in like a few years, but I always thought the implication was that she was like murdered, maybe by Garth or
that's
something.
even worse. Oh, wow.
Or like he was somehow involved in her disappearance.
Right. Well, I think when I first watched it, I was just like, oh, she's like I can't remember the name of the actress from Different Strokes, but she like got really just heavy into drugs and held up like a bank or something. Maybe that's what they were implying, but I think maybe they drove her crazy with all their misogynistic ways or something, and she probably got on drugs that way and just dealt with the wrong people. I mean, I don't want to think of Garth and the rest of the guys as murderers. That's a little too dark.
Well, it is kind of established in the beginning, like Garth has some kind of like thing against women.
Right.
Like at the very opening when he's like just explaining that he's a horror writer and all that, he talks about how like women have been screwing him over since they, figured out that he's got some money, and like, so he's got like a strong dislike of women in general.
Sure. So now we are back in the hallway of the hospital. Rick and Sanchez stand outside room 213. Sanchez, whatever you want to call him, delivers the classic line, "You and he were buddies, weren't you?" And Rick basically asks him to hang back for really no reason. Rick opens the door, and we see Renwick for the first time, this important character. We finally get to meet like halfway through the episode, and then Renwick just explodes, like fake blood and like prosthetics go everywhere. It's a huge explosion. It's glorious, if you will. And then all right, so he's just standing there. Garth in this hospital room. His friend just exploded, and there's blood and guts everywhere. And he goes, "Are you all right?" And then Larry, that's Renwick's first name. Larry, his disembodied head, asks Dag to kill him. Dag grabs a...
Yeah, I actually, Steve, I may interrupt for just a second. So, yeah, his head is all that's left of his body, and it's on the floor. And the first thing he says is to Dag, to Dr. Rick Douglas is, I think I'm gonna die.
I missed that. Yeah.
And he's like, it really hurts.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and then Dag grabs a nearby shovel, which was there for no reason other than for him to pick it up, and then he dramatically swings back, and like the music starts to swell. Both guys are screaming, Garth and the disembodied head, and then he hits, and on impact, we see he hits an obvious mannequin head that flies off frame. And then slowly bounces back into frame.
In slow motion, of course.
And, I mean, it's really just brilliant cinematography, like, all over the place. And the music. It's so good. And then he goes, Garth or Dag goes, "Bye-bye, buddy." And then Sanchez comes in. He opens the door and goes, "I'll get a mop." Which no consoling words for Dag. Just I'll get a mop.
And I don't think a mop's gonna be enough either. There's like blood and guts everywhere.
Right. There's another short interview segment where Dean says he's never known anyone personally who's exploded. I don't think there was anything else all that significant that happened in that.
No, he says I don't know for sure if Garth ever had somebody in his personal life explode. But it was an emotional scene, and like there were tears on that. You could tell the scene meant a lot to him. There were tears,
but not from Garth.
Not from Garth. He was strong for the crew, so the rest of the crew was crying. And then he says, I guess that's Garth being strong and not crying. He goes, I guess that's just one of the many burdens a brilliant artist like Garth has to bear.
Right. So now we are back in the hallway. Reed chews out Douglas in front of Liz and Sanchez. Dag says when Renwick died, it opened the gates of hell. Reed delivers another classic line. He says, "Cool it, or you're gonna get a knuckle supper." Is there anything else significant in that scene? I mean, there's a lot of good stuff.
There's a great gag where everybody in the scene is we've got all our four main characters: Thornton Reed, Dr. Douglas, Sanchez, and Liz, and everybody's holding a styrofoam cup except for Thornton Reed, who's holding the shovel that Douglas used, but. As they're talking and arguing back and forth, like sometimes Dean, when they cut to him, he won't be holding a shovel. He'll be holding a styrofoam cup. So that's a pretty. In fact, and one time while Thornton Reed is talking, holding the cup, they do a hard cut in the middle of his sentence. Now he's suddenly holding the shovel.
Right.
And he finishes the sentence. So yeah, just stuff like that. There's also a really funny awkward pause, like after Sanchez says something like, Dr. Sanchez says in reply to something Rick said, that sounds like a crock of shit. Tell me, is this hospital called crock of shit? And the way he delivers it is so funny. And then there's like a long pause, and clearly Thornton Reed, was supposed to like immediately tell everybody to cool it, but instead there's like this awkward pause where they're all just staring at each other, and then suddenly Thornton goes, "All right, everyone, cool it down. We're all getting heated." Yeah, it's a great scene. It's a great scene.
Absolutely. So now we're having an exterior shot that's obviously shot in a studio of Douglas driving a weird golf cart that's supposed to be a car.
Yeah, what is this?
It's like all they had access to like film. I guess they couldn't. The idea is they couldn't afford a real convertible or anything. And then he basically just monologues to himself for a bit. And then now we are at the graveyard, which is Renwick's funeral, and we just see Rick walking towards Liz, who was in the foreground, and Liz, never even looking at Rick, just starts talking to him and automatically knows that it's him, and she goes, "Do you really buy this portal to hell deal?" And Rick goes, "I wouldn't say I buy it, Liz. Let's just say I'm window shopping, and there's a half-price sale on Weird." Which is an awesome line. Yeah.
I think we should point out too that when we see like the funeral scene, the headstones like at the cemetery, they're like flapping back and forth in the wind. They're just like styrofoam, and
and,
it's
if
great.
you just think about it, like they had to go, okay, we have to get in a wind machine specifically to blow our like fake foam graves, so us, the viewer, can see that they're like fake. Like, it's just so brilliant.
Yeah.
So while Julian Barrett, the Padre, gives the last rites to Renwick, he springs to life, jumps out of the coffin. Dag pulls a gun. Aims it at him as he's trying to shoot. Renwick's mom gets in the way, who I don't know why she's so young, but
right, that's another thing. She's younger than Renwick.
Yeah, and you can hear Sanchez off to the end. He's like, "That's the mother, Rick," and tries to stop him, but Dag is just too hardcore, shoots the mom in the shoulder to get her out of the way.
Right. Yeah. In fact, did you notice that, like, at first Rick almost didn't know, like, it seemed like he didn't know what to do about her, and as soon as he hears that it's the mother, like, he's like, boom.
Yes.
Like, that was like, okay, I'll shoot her then.
Right.
Like, just real funny.
Yeah. And then he and Reed unload on Renwick. Reed, for some reason, has a shotgun, and he's also smoking a cigar, like Nick Fury style, and just unloads like rounds off of camera, like not really anywhere near Renwick. And then Rick also suddenly has a blowtorch for no reason, and then proceeds to set Renwick on fire. Then basically fast forward a little bit, Reed, he's in the foreground while Dag is like sort of staring off in the different distance, and he's talking. He's like, Dag was right about the portal to hell thing. I'm just gonna go tell him that right now. And walks forward and goes, "You were right, Dag." And then Dag gives him the gun. He says, "I don't really like these things."
Now, and what makes that really funny is, like, number one, like, Rick will shoot, and Dr. Sanchez, they will both use guns many times throughout the series. But the opening intro, at the very beginning of the show, like, we see like Rick like using guns like in the intro too, so it's just funny that he's like, I don't like these things.
Right. Yeah, it's hilarious. And then he goes, he tells Reed he's gonna go get some air, Liz goes, he starts to walk off, and Liz goes, Dag, where are you going? He says, to get some air. And then for really no reason, Reed hugs Liz, I guess to comfort her. And then as Dag is walking away, he slyly like grabs her ass. The background.
Right.
I laughed so hard I completely forgot about that.
Me too. I forgot about that.
Which is why we can assume that Liz eventually turned to drugs and then got into some, bad stuff. But yeah, so now we are up. And this is pretty much how every episode ends. Dag stands on the top of the roof of Dark Place Hospital in deep thought, thinking to himself. And then we are then treated to another interview. Dag says, not Dag, but Garth says he loves all animal life, but he's really sorry that they accidentally killed a cat, which is just a random thing that they thought they'd throw in there. He also says, and then at the very end of the episode, he says, all he does at the end of the day is sits at the typewriter and starts hitting the keys, and he does it just like this. Now, getting them in the right order, that's the trick. That's the trick. And then that is basically the end of the pilot episode of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, Once Upon a Beginning. Oh man,
Garth is such a shit writer. He even ripped off Once Upon a Time, but just Garth's like, I'll just change it to beginning instead of time, and it's fine.
Right. Like the only thing that I don't know. All right, the show's great. Obviously, we said that already. The only thing I kind of assume I don't... All right, so is the idea that he's a great novelist, but when it came to like writing a show, he sort of just half-assed it? Or was he just bad at everything? And if he was bad, then why did people buy his books, and then why was he able to make a show?
Well, I mean, I don't think he's a good writer because, I mean, they kind of established when he's reading his own book at the very beginning.
Yeah, okay.
That it's very poorly written, and he talks about some of his other books. How he says, you may know me from books such as Aftermath, where a mutated placenta
attacks Bristol.
I can't remember attacks Bristol. Yeah, just like
so maybe he's just writing like shit stuff that like maybe only people not so smart people like to read. Is that the idea? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look. There's plenty of crappy authors that make it big. I mean, look at the Twilight series.
Yeah. I just wanted to ruminate on this a bit. No big deal. Like,
yeah, I think he's terrible. I think Dean Lerner obviously has awful taste.
Right.
Again, Dean Lerner is the publisher, aka Thornton Reed, the publisher of Garth's book. So, yeah, I just think, like, people with bad taste buy his books.
That's a good point. Like, people who like Michael Bay, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just wanted to throw a little something in there so people didn't think we just spent the whole episode, looking at Dark Place through rose-colored glasses. And that on that note, do you think that Garth Marenghi's Dark Place should be remembered for all mankind, or tossed into the black pit of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
Oh, should definitely be remembered. Not enough people have seen this show. It's legitimately one of my favorite comedy shows of all time. Like, every scene you will laugh in every scene, and even though there's only 6 episodes, it's immensely rewatchable because there's always like little jokes in the background. This is probably like this might be like the 8th time I've seen this episode, and I'm still like finding little things. I know,
it's so crazy. Like, that's how The Simpsons used to be. Like, yeah, it's so good. Obviously, I agree with you, Yahel. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's so good. I mean, I feel like there's never been another Dark Place on, I guess, network TV for as long as I can remember. So here's the bumper. In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show. All right, and before we leave the theater here, I'd like to unveil the cover to my comic book teaser, which is now done. Can I do that, Yahel? Am I allowed?
Nice. Oh, please do, sir.
All right. So for those of you who've been listening, I've been working on this comic book for a while. It's called Escape to Earth. This is the, digital teaser. Back in the day, they used to call them ash cans. And if you like, I could email one straight to your email. It's full colored, and I think it's definitely worth an email. But feel free to leave it in the comments or DM the Obscurity Now Twitter on Twitter. But anyway, there it is, right there. But wait, you can't see it, right? Or can you?
Well, I've got YouTube pulled up, so I'll be able to see it here.
Should be there in a second.
Momentarily. Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, that looks so good.
Thanks.
That looks so good, Steve.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just did what Garth did, I sat at the typewriter and started typing the keys, and hopefully I got them in the right order.
Yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully you did. Man, this looks so professional. Damn,
looks
great,
I'll
dude.
send you a copy yourself when
I don't want to read it.
Too late.
I'm kidding.
And
yeah, please
I will. And of course, I don't know if this has been helping, but Ray Can't Sleep had seemed to have a significant bump. I don't know if it's because it's of the month or because we've been running the ad on here, but here's the ad, and then we'll finish up the episode when we come back. Here we go. My name is Ray, and I can't sleep.
What happens when you try to sleep?
I feel like I'm dreaming, but I'm awake, and I can't move.
I think you were sleepwalking. You emptied your pockets, sat back down, and went back to sleep. There were some rough-looking characters on the bus, so I grabbed your stuff and sat next to you so no one would try anything.
So you saw someone who needed help and you helped them? That is the most un-LA thing I've ever heard.
I've gone over the audio, and I think I found something.
Something good?
That's the guy. The one they've been talking about. Are you sure? Let's get him.
Do you think it's aliens?
It's odd, but I don't think it's anything that crazy.
Are you sure? Or maybe you're just being closed-minded. I just don't know who to trust anymore.
When there's nothing left to believe in, believe in sense.
All right. So once again, that is Ray Can't Sleep, my audio drama podcast. Wherever you get podcasts, you can listen to it for free right now. So Yahel, any big plans for the rest of Halloween?
No. I went out the last couple nights. I got pretty drunk, so I'm just gonna take it easy tonight. I think I'm not probably not gonna do anything. Of course, in a couple hours, I'll probably be bored.
Watch some more.
Be like, well,
Dark Place.
I guess I can drink more. I do kind of like want to. I probably will end up just watching the other 5 episodes.
I know it's been a while since you've seen them, but do you have a favorite episode that you can think of off the top of your head?
I like what's the one where like there's like a like spatulas and things are like coming at them.
I think that's episode 2, I think, or 3, something like that.
I remember liking that one a lot.
Yeah, I posted a GIF earlier from that episode.
Yeah, that one's a good one. The one with the Highlanders is good.
Right. I like, even though it's weird, the last episode I like a lot because it has that dumb music video performed by Dr. Sanchez, the one-track Lover.
Yeah.
But then that episode ends with him basically getting, like they have to remove his penis, basically, because he gets that broccoli disease or whatever. And, like, what a downer to end on. Like, they ended Garth Marenghi on one of the characters, like, getting their genitals removed. Like, man. Only in Britcoms, man. Only in Britcoms. Did you have anything you wanted to report on your projects?
Nope. Just still working on the Perfect Dark video. I have sold out. It will have a sponsor in it.
Blue Chew.
Magic Spoon cereal, actually, is what it's called. It's like high protein, low carb, low calorie cereal. So it tastes surprisingly good. They sent me a box, and it's actually pretty
I've
good.
always wanted to try it, but yeah, never mention them again on this podcast unless they want to send me some cereal. Okay, all right.
Oh, I apologize, sir. I sincerely
So I went ahead and chose what we're going to do for next episode. And I would like to tell you now, and hopefully you won't be vehemently against it. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So before James Bond madness, if that's even a thing, completely fades from public memory, I would like for us to take a look at the James Bond Jr. cartoon from the 90s.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
All right, yeah.
I vaguely remember like seeing commercials for it. I never watched it.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah,
But
I'm down.
yeah. Okay, good. All right. Everybody, happy Halloween. Make sure you check out Yahel's channel, Wrestling with Gaming, and of course, Ray Can't Sleep. If you want a free digital preview of my comic, just leave it in the comments or tweet us. And we will see you next week on Obscurity Now, when we will be talking about James Bond Jr. See you around.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.